Well, it is finally that time again as we get set to go back racing for the V8 Supercars World Cup. This time, we swing on over to Braselton, Georgia for the Braselton Grand Prix here at the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. Hello and welcome, one and all. My name is Nolan Rempel. I'll be bringing you all of the coverage from tonight's 37-lap race as we get set to kick off what should be an absolutely phenomenal race. Tonight, it'll be the first night race on the season as well as we get set to go racing into the season and under the lights. Championship standings still as tight as ever. You have got yourself one Tony Stewart going to be at the top of the points boards, and I tell you what, he's going to be pretty hard pressed to try to find himself with some solid footing entering tonight's race with Nathan Orban trying to run him down. Andy Thomas sitting back behind him in third place as well. Kinghorn, Fitzwater round out the top five, separated by just 30 points, and with over 100 points up for grabs with just winning the race, that still has the potential to shift quite violently, in fact, as we continue to go through tonight's race. Already, you've got qualifying complete, and everybody is lined up and ready to go. Of course, Road Atlanta, most famous for the running of the Petit Le Mans on an annual basis, and it is one of the most well-known and well-liked tracks in all of the United States of America and throughout North America, as a matter of fact. Personally, it's one of my favorite racetracks as well, so I can't wait to see what these V8 Supercars will be having in store for us here tonight. But as we have already finished up qualifying and everybody is lined up on that starting grid, I think it's about high time we take a rundown through your starting grid and what things will look like as we get set to go racing here tonight. So starting on pole position will be Mitchell O'Brien with Logan Hamilton beside him on the front row. You got Andy Thomas in third with Stephen Colon in fourth. Zach Fitzwater Sr. is fifth with George Ward rounding out the top six. Logan Kinghorn, the last of the drivers, separated by just 1 second with Nathan Christensen in eighth. Matt Jones is ninth, Nathan Orban is 10th, Lewis Young and Jose Mills are in 11th and 12th. That will then, of course, mean you've got Felix Jansen on 13th, Will Parrish 14th, Aiden Stone 15th, Tony Stewart is 16th, Archer Kingsley is 17th, Dominic Horn is 18th, Casey Wells is 19th, and Christian Vargas is down in 20th. That leaves Nathan Wheaton, Alyssa Harris, Luca Reed, Jesse Bell, and then as well as that, you will have the likes of Michael Brown, Declan Foster, and Dylan McKenzie to round out the showing here for tonight's race. So everything seems to be set and ready for us to go racing as these 37 cars are lined up and they're ready to do battle in Braselton, Georgia for round number 3 in the V8 Supercars World Cup. All cars have launched well. Logan Hamilton still in second place as Mitchell O'Brien takes the race lead, but Hamilton will go outside line down into turn number 1, and I think Hamilton will just be able to pull ahead there as we blaze down in towards turn 2 for the first time today. They start to thunder their way down into the S's side by side all the way down throughout the field. It is tightly packed, but so far no drivers having any problems. We thunder our way down into the fearsome kink at the bottom of the SS down for the first time today. One of the more difficult corners on the racetrack. Hamilton still has the race lead with Mitchell O'Brien down in second. The Vodafone Mustang clear by about 2 car lengths with that race lead, dicing his way now as we enter the long back straight, firing it back up towards that turn 10 chicane for the first time out of 37 today. No moves being made so far down into the chicane for the first time today. You can see Andy Thomas trying to get around Stephen Colon, and I think she has made that pass work for the third place. You can see the whole field cycling down through the chicane. Up in front, Mitchell O'Brien will lose the race lead officially, and Logan Hamilton leads the opening lap. Andy Thomas, as mentioned before, up to third as we now get set to settle into the rhythm of this thing as Stephen Cologne once again battling with Mitchell O'Brien as Andy Thomas is up to second, and O'Brien loses 2 spots and might lose a 3rd here. They're going to go side by side down the hill, though. This is risky business. It's a very one-line section of racetrack, but they're going to make it work. Stephen Cologne, Mitchell O'Brien still side by side. Here comes Logan Kinghorn, going to push his way up into 4th place as we fire up and over the hill. Saw Logan Kinghorn briefly go off circuit, but he has been able to so far keep that thing steady and back on the racing surface now as we thunder down this long back straightaway out of turn 7 all the way down to that turn 10 chicane with a couple of kinks thrown into the mix. And Cologne once again on the offensive, making the pass on Andy Thomas from the outside into the turn 10 chicane, up and over the hill through turn 11 and under the bridge. We fire down to turn number 12. Hamilton still leads, but now it's Stephen Cologne up in 2nd place. We'll see what the number 9 machine will be able to make as the headlights click on. Mitchell O'Brien is off course and struggling to get back on. Close call there from Mitchell O'Brien as Casey Wells is even further off the course, and Casey Wells, the Super Chibato Mustang, is well and truly off. He is all the way up to turn 3. Oh, that's tight! Just coming back on. That was way too close for comfort there as Casey Wells re-enters the racing circuit. Holy cow, this was a very, very close call. You see him swinging out wide, and it was right about here when everything really started to go wrong. You're going to see him cut back on, and it's not going to go well because right here comes back on, just barely avoids the diesel dyno Mustang as he came flying across the racetrack. Very, very close call, and thank goodness that didn't end in worse fashion for other drivers in this field. Nathan Christensen is on the charge, trying to work his way up into 7th place and overtake George Ward for 7th. That hasn't happened. Oh, here comes Jose Mills battling back through the final corner. The top 10 are really in a breakaway of their own, and then you've got 11th on back. And so far, nobody is willing to really let go of any of these battles that they have been shaken up with. Everybody is just wanting to go, 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 and you can tell that that is definitely going to be causing a few rifts throughout this field. As Logan Hamilton, you can see him up at the front of the field battling it out with the likes of Thomas, Cologne, Kinghorn, and O'Brien. That gap was down about a quarter of a second. Lockups in turn 7, whom I believe Logan Hamilton. So feeling the pressure. And no move being made down into the turn 10 chicane, but you can see just how close that gap is, and Hamilton is not going to be willing to let this one go without a fight. We know that he can be very, very big on offense, but you can see the battle for second really shaking up as well, and this is where things could potentially fall apart as you got those 3 cars separated by just 0.5 of a second. All the while, you've still got all these battles deeper in the field as well. Look at this long train of cars just caught in a big draft train being held up by that Bugatti machine just up the road from them, and I believe that will be the number 90 car of Aiden Stone. This is all the fight for 12th place on back, and you can see just how much a lot of drivers are being checked up by this huge scrap, and you have to wonder how long will it be before somebody in here starts to get a little bit desperate to try to force the issue. Though this could very well be how things stay all the way up until we get to green flag pit stops at about halfway. Well, Stewart makes the look. He wants to get up and past Aiden Stone. Looks like Orman might want to follow him through. Drag race out through turn 9 and down the hill for 10 into the braking zone. Stewart brakes way late. Is that too deep? No, it's not. He manages to get around Aiden Stone. Now he's going to be clear to try to run down Lewis Young at 11th. George Ward, you can see, is now off the track, and he is going to come back on, but having some major problems, and Andy Thomas as well. Whoa, Andy Thomas goes into the concrete. Andy Thomas sliding off track and is going to throw that car into the barrier, comes back on, but she's going to have some pretty big damage, so another error from Andy Thomas. Could very well see her out in the race, just went too deep, locked it up, and went head on into the barrier. That's given Hamilton now a 3+ second gap as Logan Kinghorn tries to go on the offensive against Stephen Colon. And will be able to get around him. Battle for second very much on as they fire across the timing line to start the 7th trip around. And all the while, you can see the ever steadily setting sun here over Road Atlanta. Sooner or later, we will be racing under the darkness. There aren't a whole lot of night races in the series this season. There's only a very few handful. Those races are going to be the likes of this one here at Road Atlanta. The Charlotte Motor Speedway will be under the lights. You're going to be having, I believe, the race at Winton Motor Raceway will be a night race. That's about it. That's all that we've got scheduled for now. But of course, there was talk about potentially moving one of these races to Sandown, which was just released earlier. Well, it was announced earlier this week that it'll be on the iRacing service. So who knows? If it's supported, maybe we'll find ourselves racing at another track at Sandown, and maybe that could be another night race as well. Stephen Colon battling Logan Kinghorn down the hill in towards turn 10. He's going to make that stick, and still got fights with Jose Mills. It will perish. That will be a swap for, I believe, 6th. There comes George Ward. We'll move up to 8th. Trying the outside of Mills. That's risky into the final corner. It's not going to work, though, and he gets muscled out. On board with Casey Wells, down 6 spots, and at the tail end of this long train of cars, he is just trying to work his way up through the field. Everywhere you look in this field, you've got battles starting to take place. And at the end of really the first quarter of this race, you see Will Parrish has already moved up 7 spots. Matt Jones has lost the most. He's all the way down in 18th place. Now, Matt Jones actually did have a relatively big off, and he was off the track for a good 20 seconds. That is why he was so far down the order. We'll see if we can try to find a replay of what happened to Matt Jones, and I think we will actually be able to get it. This is all the way back on lap 3 of this race. Just did what Andy Thomas did along the way out. He said this was in turn 1. He also clipped the concrete barrier, though, and before he could come back on, he had to wait for a good portion of these drivers to cycle on through. That is why he had to wait so long, and why he lost so many positions. So Matt Jones starting to pick his way back up through this field. You can see him right there at the tail end. He is caught back up to Dylan McKenzie. Andy Thomas, though, is into pit road. So Andy Thomas into the pits, and I wonder if, this would have had to have been a relative, this was all the back on lap 6. I think she's taking that early pit stop. I don't think she's going to be able to make it to the end, though. So with an unscheduled pit stop for Andy Thomas, she will not have enough to make it to the end. So this effectively confirms that Andy Thomas is going to be out of the race tonight. What a shame for Andy Thomas. She was having such a good run, but just wasn't meant to be, it would appear. Cluing in on the battle for 4th place between Mitchell O'Brien and Zachary Fitzwater Sr. As 11th place, Lewis Young has gone off the course, and that is a big hit into the barrier down at turn 6. Oh, he's just gone too deep, and that is hard into the barriers head on, and he will no doubt be taking a trip to pit road. In fact, he'll take the tow to pit road. Coming down the hill, Will Parrish, Nathan Christensen in a battle, trying to sort themselves out. You're riding on board with Will Parrish at the moment. I think he has just managed to get around the likes of Nathan Christensen and Jose Mills. Dylan McKenzie now off the track at the final chicane, but he is going to come back on with no further incidents, so we'll tune back into these leading group battles. We're still waiting to fully materialize as we get deeper and deeper into tonight's race. There's a look to the right. Fitzwater wants to move. Charging down Mitchell O'Brien with the draft. Now pulls along to the right-hand side. Through turn 9. Down for the turn 10 chicane. Side by side. Battle of the late breakers. Fitzwater's got the momentum on the outside line. And I think we'll just be able to take that spot away. And he has. Mitchell O'Brien loses out. George Ward cuts across the chicane and will re-enter at turn 11. Great work there for Zach Fitzwater Sr. to make that overtake into 4th place. Now he's going to have to try to see if he can hang on. All the really tight battles are still in this back train, but it is starting to spread out across the whole of the racetrack at this point. Andy Thomas, by the way, has re-entered the racing circuit, but she is one lap down, and that 2nd place, Stephen Colon, right in front of her. So Thomas, after having a crash earlier on, is back into this race. So that is not what she wanted to see, and it was this incident that saw her make that unexpected trip to pit road in the first place when she swung out wide, tried to work with the damage, but I guess the damage was just too much for her to properly deal with, so she ended up just blowing it in to get the damage fixed. Battle for 5th. O'Brien, Parrish. Side by side. Can Parrish hang the outside line? He's going to try for it, but Mitchell O'Brien is still there, but Will Parrish will get clear right when they cross that start-finish line once again. Fight for 15th place between Felix Jansen and Dominic Bourne. They're also within a second of 14th place Luca Reed just in front of them. Whoa, that might be a bit deep for Jansen, but he just hangs it in, but lost a lot of momentum. It's taking such a tight entry to the corner. Luca Reed just bottled the corner big time as well at turn 1. So on board as we roll down the hill. Three-way fight here for this 14th position on the racetrack. A lot of the other positions have split apart. Fitzwater off the racetrack, and has he collected the barriers? I don't believe he has. And was this with help? I don't think it was, and it was not. He just had an off of his own. Did lose a spot to Tony Stewart. Might lose another one here to George Ward. Thinking about making that look down to the turn 10. Is he going to commit? No, he doesn't. He backs out early and lets Fitzwater have that position for the time being. Stephen Colon has caught up to Logan Hamilton for the race lead. This could be big. Hamilton has been in control of this race since the opening lap, but that might not last for long. Going to lose all of that time throughout the S's. I think Hamilton is just so much better through some of these faster corners, and Cologne goes too deep, trying to keep it together, hang on to it. Oh, and Andy Thomas has followed him in. That is an embarrassing crash there for Stephen Cologne, and Andy Thomas followed him right in. Dear, oh dear, and Dylan McKenzie has also gone off at the same corner. What is happening down at that end of the racetrack? We'll take a look at Stephen Cologne first, as he came flying in too deep and looped it around, went into the barriers. Andy Thomas did the same mistake as earlier. And then Dylan McKenzie. Oh, this is a completely separate incident. He went deep into turn 1. And I think Cologne has just now managed to get himself back out onto the racetrack, and more trouble for a few cars. We'll take a look at these one at a time. Started with Jesse Bell, who went deep at turn 6 and swung his way off the track, comes back on and pulls it to a stop, and I think will just end up cutting the corner there, and yes, he will. And there you can see Stephen Cologne parked, and he was just waiting to re-enter pit road. Andy Thomas, by the way, speaking of pit road, is now back into pit road herself. A very chaotic set of corners then. Got this fight behind for 4th place. Mitchell O'Brien and Jose Mills. O'Brien, the defender, trying to hang on, and will do so as Luca Reed finds himself re-entering the racing circuit in the same corner that so many drivers have had struggles with throughout the course of today. And in fact, Luca Reed could end up losing a boatload of spots. There's Foster, Wells, and Jones all flying up on him. But instead, they're actually going to back out, I think. Interesting call. I would have gone for the overtake, but maybe they just wanted to have some extra friends to play with back here, as Matt Jones will look to the inside of Casey Wells and will make that pass happen. Holy cow. I'll tell you what, this has been quite the race so far as we continue to look back over some of the battles deeper in the field, but again, all of these starting to get really spaced out now. Here's a three-way scrap for 4th. O'Brien, Mills, and now Christensen has found his way into the mix. There's a look, and it'll be an overtake. Mills breaks later, and Mitchell O'Brien just gave that one up into the corner. Was not wanting to really have any part to do with that one. So Jose Mills completed the pass on Mitchell O'Brien. We'll ride on board with O'Brien here, and you'll see just backed out really early. That actually just tucked in line so we can make the corner. I guess, I mean, to be fair, we are still not even that halfway yet, so there's not really a whole lot of points to really fight too hard this early on. And I imagine, though, if this was like 3 to go, he would not have let that fight go so easily. But I think O'Brien could recognize that Mills had the pace because he's already a couple seconds clear. So we fly back down the hill. Tell you what, that segment of corners throughout the first sector of this lap from turn 1 all the way up to here, turn 5, is one of the most exhilarating sequence of corners and one of the most satisfying as well that you can find in motor racing. It's the pure definition of easy to learn, difficult to master. And it's hard to explain when you get it right, but it's one of those cases where when you get it right, you'll know you got it right. Ward, Orman, Vargas. Fight for 9th. On board with Orman as he continues to try to run down George Ward right in front of him. Orman is one of the few drivers that so far hasn't really moved where he started in this race. Whoa, Ward went a fair bit wide. And that'll lose him a couple of tenths. Will Parrish is now off the circuit, and he has gone fully around. Parrish is fully around, and he's not the only one. George Ward has followed him in, and he's into the barriers. So we'll look at George Ward first. He just went way too hot, and he clattered into the wall. So that was actually George Ward, sorry, that went deep, and then we'll get a look at what happened to Will Parrish, who was at the same point. He was battling with Jose Mills, remember, but no help. Looped it around. Has he kept that thing out of the wall, trying to hit the brakes? No, he hasn't. He's backed it in. And then George Ward, yeah, just same mistake, just followed him right in, except he didn't loop it all the way around. He just body slammed the wall instead. Once again, the battle for 4th. O'Brien, Christensen, now Stewart has thrown his hat into the ring. So your overall points leader wants in on the action. Tell you what, that's a nice looking Pennzoil Mustang that Christensen runs into series in his number 7 mission, I should say, running to the number 5 position at the moment. And doing a great job and sticking close to Mitchell O'Brien, but of course Tony Stewart is one to watch. He's up 10 spots and wants to make that 11 as he's going to lunge to the inside here. Nathan Christensen, this could be tight. Stewart is through at turn A. Can he hold on through the exit of turn B? Yes, he can. He's through. Meanwhile, Declan Foster way out wide and will return to the racetrack. Didn't even lose all that much ground as Michael Brown gets by Alyssa Harris for 16th. We are over halfway at this point, so if you stop for fuel, you will be able to make it to the end. And speaking of making it to the end, George Ward has just entered pit road, but he is a lap down, and I believe he had taken that tow, so that was just him finally getting reset to his pit box as Ryan and Stewart continue to do battle down towards turn 6 out of the SS. Checking in again on where everybody sits, and Stewart and Vargas both tied for the biggest movers, 11 spots apiece. Andy Thomas back on the racetrack, though, has lost the most. She is down 24 spots. It is now 7 laps down as well. Race leader Logan Hamilton is into pit road. We'll see if Kinghorn will follow. Yes, he does. So a whole host of drivers now making the trip down into pit road as pit stops begin. This could be the cycle for green flag pit stops altogether. We'll see if anybody stays out. And it will be Fitzwater to stay out on the racetrack. So that'll be very interesting to see how all of that is going to play out. So we'll watch the number 54 car as well as the number 70 on the track map. Kind of get a picture of where everything will be sitting. Fitzwater still finds himself in that battle with the same drivers down into turn number 10 as Orman and Fitzwater going to be going side by side, and Orman's going to get through. No, he hasn't. Fitzwater fighting back up over the top of turn 11, trying to go around the outside of turn 12. That's going to be bold, and it's not going to happen. Nathan Orman able to break out clear and in front. Good job there and good show for Nathan Orman to make that pass work. Stephen Cologne also in the battle here, trying to hang on against Jesse Bell and Declan Foster, but Foster's going to look to the inside of Cologne instead, and will get through maybe. No, not quite. Once again, battle down into the final corner. I don't think it's going to happen here, though. Oh, actually, maybe it will. Outside line. And they're still side by side down the pit straight in towards turn number 1. On board with Cologne at the moment with Jesse Bell on his left. Bell gets busted out onto the curb, but he's still going to be side by side. This is phenomenal racing. Into turn 2. Will they go through the S's like this? It looks like they're going to try it. Cologne still fighting back. They've been side by side for half a lap, and just now Cologne finally secures his defense. What an effort, though, for Declan Foster. He was not about to yield for anything. Great racing there amongst all of these drivers. There was no contact, a little bit of kind of trying to pull some mind games and force the other driver out of line, but at the end of the day, Stephen Cologne, driver so consistent at the front of these things, will find himself holding on to 21st. And now it's his turn to go on offense against Matt Jones. Down the hill, Jones still fighting this one, but I think Cologne will have the momentum, and yes, he will, and Declan Foster will follow through as well. Just capitalizing on an open door. Trouble for Mitchell O'Brien. He's gone off and I think has gone into the wall, and now he's parked on the racetrack. That is a dangerous place to be stopped. I think he'll have to get going here. He's going to spin out the tires, and he is going to be able to get on the racetrack. Cuts a bit of the corner there, but he could be sort of somewhat excused for that one. We'll look at the replay. Swinging out wide. Has he hit the wall? Oh, just kept it out of there. That's going to dump O'Brien all the way down to 9th place. Sun has fully set over the Road Atlanta Racing Circuit, and I think these drivers are going to be more than settled now into the overall rhythm of things as we continue our long race into the night. Logan Kinghorn has been struggling to catch up to Logan Hamilton and is being held up here by Andy Thomas. This gap is just under a second, and I think Thomas will be letting Kinghorn through here onto the long straight. Kinghorn really trying to work that draft, really trying to close up as close as he can to the back end of Hamilton, but it hasn't really materialized so far, but he will certainly give it an effort as Lewis Young is the next driver to go off at turn 6. Click the grass on entry. Is that the barrier? Sure is. Yeah, it's the second time he's done that so far. Dominic Horn is gotten by Mitchell O'Brien trying to get up to Will Parrish now. This was done into turn 10. Got quite a few entertaining tracks coming on up here and some more technical ones as well before we swing on over to Europe. Watkins Glen International and the Charlotte Roval will be up next, so we'll be going to America's home for motorsports and a rather famous track in upstate New York, so it should be very, very interesting to see what Watkins Glen will hold for these drivers in that 27-lap affair, and especially the 41-lap race that's going to be at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we'll finish off the North American Tour with a trip to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. There was discussion about potentially bringing these guys on down to the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, but I'm not sure that that has fully taken on. But I know it's still somewhat of a discussion, so we'll see what will mean for that, as Archer Kingsley appears to have had a significant off at turn 6, and he's not the only one. Stephen Colon and Luca Reed. Oh, that's a huge hit for Archer Kingsley. We'll get a look at what happened now to Stephen Colon. And falling right off, went around, backs it into the wall. And immediately after, Luca Reed, second verse, same as the first, swings it out wide, except he will keep it out of the barriers. Good show there for the opposite lock Mustang. And yeah, more drivers having trouble here. Nathan Christensen has gone off. And he is not the only one. Aiden Stone as well. So the track starting to get a bit slick, it would appear, as whoopsie daisy taking a bit of an angle there. That was not at all what Christensen wanted to do. And yep, loops it. Does he go into the wall? Oh, yeah, just a little kiss. That's a no harm, no foul type of kiss, I like to say. So could have been a lot worse for Christensen, but could have been a lot better. Kinghorn has caught Hamilton. And is trying to make that overtake. Andy Thomas is still sitting behind, but there's not a lot Thomas can do considering she is several laps down. So all she can really do is sit and wait, but the fact that she's kept this close really tells me that she had the pace to be up in front. And remember, she was the chase car in second place before she went off course at turn 6. And went into the wall. Oh, there's the look. Kinghorn alongside with Hamilton. Drag race down through turn 9 towards the chicane at turn 10. Well, Hamilton's lead be toppled. Hamilton breaks late. Thomas trying to play spoiler here as she's going to pull alongside with Logan Kinghorn. That is not good at all, as she has just spoiled the battle for the race lead and just saved Hamilton a huge headache. As well as this, Vargas trying to get around Zach Fitzwater Sr. for 6th. But the Aussie driver knows how to work these cars and will clear for 11th place down into turn 12 and maintain 6th place for the time being. 10 laps to go from Road Atlanta in round number 3. Still tracking this battle for 6th place as Vargas continues to slowly chip away at Fitzwater, trying to get in his head, I think. Well, we have another look down in towards the turn 10 chicane. It wouldn't surprise you if we did. Well, he's making the peak over to the right, showing Fitzwater that he's there, and he's going to commit to it alongside. But Fitzwater just brakes all that much later, using the engine braking to his advantage there, and will once again pull a couple tenths clear. Not a whole lot of battles that are within a second left out on the racetrack. The closest one would be Stone, Harris, and Jansen, who you can see still in their scrap for 13th place. There's also Christian and O'Brien, a couple of tenths apart as well. But other than that, it's just a pretty standard race so far for a lot of these guys in this field, as Harris looks to the left of Edenstone, but an outside pass into turn one just doesn't fly. Not noticing a whole lot of overtakes down through the S's as well, but I think it's, if you take one look at even the track map, it's pretty easy to see why there's no overtakes. It's such a one-line strip of asphalt. Can't really do a whole lot with it, so it's understandable why a lot of these guys are hesitant to even initiate an overtake down there. As, oh, hello, what's going on here? Oh, Jansen ran wide. Sorry, Alyssa Harris went wide, and that lets Felix Jansen and the Red Bull machine up into the mix. Harris isn't done fighting this one, though. Looks immediately over to the right again, and will get back past Felix Jansen, and will now try to go after Edenstone as well, trying to go 2 for 2. That's a bold move from Melissa Harris. It's not going to lead to anything, though. George Ward, much like Andy Thomas, just kind of sitting back and watching the fireworks. Horns once again closing in rapidly on Logan Hamilton, down to 0.4 of a second. He could have a potential look. Oh, is going to opt against it. Yes, he will. And then Hamilton is just able to build such a strong gap out of that final corner and down across the start-finish line in that final sector of the racetrack. It's honestly impressive how much Hamilton can pull out. He pulled out 1.3 seconds in those few corners alone. Don't forget the yellow covering Castrol Machines as they continued their scrap for 6th place. They haven't changed hands recently. You can definitely tell that Vargas has been trying to close on up, but Fitzwater is just so confident through the higher speed corners and on the brakes that while Vargas has got the top end speed to run him down, I don't think he's got enough to really actually complete the overtake. So we'll see where that leads throughout the rest of this race. Like I mentioned, so much more confident on the power, is able to really pull out and make gap. Mitchell O'Brien, though, really did not have, or actually, sorry, it was Christian that didn't have the best exit out of turn number 9, as Mitchell O'Brien has closed down to a 10th and a half. And we'll try for the overtake alongside. Ahead of turn 10A, but Christian fighting back for turn 10B. Through turn 11, down the hill for 12. Still going to be battling this one out. They both have to slam on the binders to avoid going off track and running into each other, and it's a drag race for turn 1. Oh, Christensen locks up. He's too deep, and Christensen goes off the course. Nathan Christensen way out wide. And he'll cut back on, and now is just ripping across the racetrack here. I think that is just frustration from Nathan Christensen as he slams down and, whoa, nearly wipes out Dominic Horn as he comes back on track. And that's going to be a litany of slowdown penalties he's going to have to serve there. He is going to be in a heap of trouble with no doubt getting a massive penalty. How's this for a scrap? Stone, Harris, Jansen, Wheaton, all under a second from each other. The first four cars in line, all fighting for 13th. there will be a look for position as Alyssa Harris is going to pull alongside Aiden Stone, or going to try to pull alongside Aiden Stone. Not sure if she'll be able to get there. She does. All right, here we go into the braking zone. And Harris completes the pass. Will Jansen swipe through and try to pick up momentum? He attempted it, but wasn't able to get there. This is the crucial battle, though. 0.2 of a second. Kinghorn is closer than he's ever been to Logan Hamilton. This could be his best shot. Coming to 4 laps to go to get this race lead away. Alongside, here we go. Battle for the race lead. Kinghorn slams on the binders, but Hamilton just jumped on them even quicker. Kinghorn will once again have to resign himself to second place, and I'm pretty sure he is hollering right now for Alyssa Harris to not get involved and just sit in the back. And that's not Alyssa, or that's not Andy Thomas. That's Declan Foster. That's now right behind them. A pinch from Dominic Horn on Nathan Christensen as they fight for the last spot inside the top 10. And yeah, more drivers still scrapping that as well. You just saw Nathan Wheaton get by Casey Wells on the timing boards, and we'll show you how this took place. Actually, it was an attempt on Casey Wells to pass Nathan Wheaton, and Wheaton actually fought back at the Irwin Tools Mustang and fended him off. Oh, a couple of cars off track, including Dominic Horn. We'll look at Alyssa Harris first because she's had a big off at turn 1. Blocks it up, goes deep. Tire barrier? Yep, tire barrier. Was able to get back on track without any incident for there, but this is the big one. Dominic Horn flying off the race course and hard into the barrier. But like all the others, off the race course, so no harm, no foul is what they've been saying. And I have to be brutally honest here. I don't think Logan Kinghorn is going to be able to catch up to Logan Hamilton with how dominant he has been so far throughout this race. On board with Stone, he actually has to jam on the brakes or he would have run into the back of Felix Jansen. It's a bit naughty there from the Mustang there as George Ward is trying to cycle through all of this mess as well. Next week's race is another track that a lot of not next week's race, because we don't know if the race will be out next week, but I know the next race at Watkins Glen is another track that is very, very famous. Hosted the Formula One Grand Prix for a number of years, regularly hosted IndyCar races, still hosts the 6 Hours of the Glen for the IMSA series. Yes, Mitchell O'Brien, what on earth is going on here? O'Brien having some interesting struggles there, and we'll see if we can't piece together what's just happened. Oh, Will Parrish went off track. Oh, and then Jordan O'Brien off. So it was Parrish that went down off the track and then just doored his opponent when he came back on. 1.3 seconds separate Kinghorn from Hamilton with 2 laps to go. Well, not really 2 laps. It's more like 1.25 at this point. escape the barriers and return to the racetrack as well. But I tell you what, it has not been a fun ride for Logan Hamilton, who has had a lot of stress that car has had to put down throughout the course of this race. But it is closing. Final lap. 0.8 of a second, closing fast. Kinghorn's down to 0.6 of a second by the time they hit turn 1. This fight for the race lead is not over. Into the S's for the last time. Hamilton's catching Dylan McKenzie, who's already a lap down. Will lap traffic play a factor in this battle? Kinghorn losing so much time through the S's as they thunder down the hill out through 5. As Tony Stewart is off track. But he'll cut back on. And it will be a factor. Logan Hamilton has got to get around Dylan McKenzie here quickly, or he's going to lose so much time trying to get out of the number 12, Dewalt Holden. But I think Logan Kinghorn got held up even more. Hamilton's 1.5 seconds clear. All he's got to do is coast through, and he'll be golden. Down the hill for the final time. Into the chicane. Out of turn 10B. 2.5 seconds clear. Hamilton's got no more competition. Through the final corner, Logan Hamilton wins the Braselton Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Matt Jones has gone off the track big time at turn 1. He'll be the last car to cross the line, but what a win for Logan Hamilton. Taking that checkered flag in a well-deserved fashion. What a run. Aiden Stone and Nathan Wheaton are one of the last battles he got on the racetrack at the moment. This is for 14th place. Casey Wells is in the mix as well. There's a look. Casey Wells wants to spoil Wheaton's party. He's going to go to the inside of Casey Wells, and I think he will actually get there down into the chicane. Still side by side as Wells fighting Wheaton off with the number 19 car side by side through the final corner, though, down the hill. Can he get there? I don't think he will be able to, and he doesn't. Casey Wells is bested by Nathan Wheaton with an outside line charge. What a battle, though, for this field. And an amazing run for everybody that competed in this race. And I tell you what, this was a fight that everybody deserved to have. What an epic race from Road Atlanta. We'll take a look at your official point standings out of tonight. It's Logan Hamilton taking the race victory over Logan Kinghorn. Jose Mills is in third with Nathan Norman rounding out the top 4. Tony Stewart is down in 5th. Fitzwater Sr. is in 6th with Vargas in 7th. Will Parrish is 8th. Nathan Christensen is 9th. Mitchell O'Brien will be rounding out the top 10. From there you got Michael Brown, Felix Jensen, Alyssa Harris, Aiden Stone, Nathan Wheaton, Casey Wells, Jesse Bell, Stephen Colon, Matt Jones, Declan Foster was the first car, 1 lap down, followed by Luca Reed, Dominic Horn, George Ward, Archer Kingsley, Andy Thomas, Dylan McKenzie, and Lewis Young rounds out the field. Going to take a look at your point standings to show you where everything shakes up out of tonight's race. And Stewart still holds the lead, but only by 2. Orman is closed in the gap. Kinghorn just 10 points behind in third. You've got the top 3 separated by just 10 points, which means that Watkins Glen, I think we will be seeing that switch in the point standings. That's all we've got time for one night, though. So join us next time when we go racing in upstate New York at Watkins Glen International.